We got our Week 8 college football top 25 rankings, and we're doing these videos every single Tuesday, so make sure you subscribe if you're new. Not only do we have college football content every single week, we do NFL weekly predictions every single Wednesday. We got NBA and college basketball content coming weekly. Those two seasons are right around the corner, and of course MLB content every week. So if any of that interests you, go down there, subscribe. But we got a lot to talk about, and let's just go ahead and get right into it. Number 25, real quick, I just wanted to say before we get into Nebraska, Penn State, man, losing their third game in a row. James Franklin gets fired. I kind of wanted to bring this up because I do think that if I had to pick someone to be Penn State's next coach, I think I'd probably lean Matt Rule. I've heard a lot of Kurt Cignetti, but I don't know if he'll leave Indiana just yet. I think it might be a little too soon. I've heard some other guys. I really hope it's not Brian Hartline. I would hate that as an Ohio State fan. And I've heard a few other names thrown around there. You know, Missouri's head coach, Eli Drinkwitz. But I think Matt Rule might be a good fit for them. We'll see. Nebraska's doing really well right now, though. 5-1, only lost to Michigan. And yeah, they're kind of cruising through the Big Ten. When you look at the schedule, I mean, now that Penn State isn't all that great, there's a chance Nebraska can. You look at those USC and Penn State games; those are probably the hardest game. I guess UCLA because they're looking pretty good right now. But that 3-week stretch is really going to tell all we need to know about Nebraska. But I think going into that 3-week stretch, there's a good chance they're 7-1. They're looking pretty solid right now. There's a chance they finish the season 10-2, and with that, they might have enough to get into the playoffs. I mean, the USC win. I guess if USC stays ranked, if they win that game, that could be a ranked win. Cincinnati is now ranked, so that win's looking pretty good. I don't know. Nebraska, I think, is in a pretty good spot. This week on the road against Minnesota, I'm not, too worried here. I don't think Minnesota's all that great. I'll take Nebraska to win 28-17. I think Matt Rule and Dylan Raiola continue to roll and pick up their 6th win on the season. Number 24 is going to be Michigan. I have them moving down 10 spots. A lot of you may think Michigan shouldn't be ranked, but if I'm going to rank Nebraska, I feel like I have to rank Michigan. They went into Nebraska, a very hard place to play, and got the win. And honestly, they won by 3, but they probably should have won that game by a lot more than that. But they did look pretty rough against USC, a team that's built their program on physicality and running the ball and winning in the trenches. USC did all those things against them and did them much better than Michigan. Bryce Underwood, it looks like they're not letting him kind of just let loose and play football. They're trying to ease him in, I guess. I don't really know what's going on with Michigan. I don't know if Sharon Moore is really the guy for them at head coach. I think a lot of Michigan fans would say he's not. I've heard a lot of negative things about him from Michigan fans. They don't really like him over there. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm an Ohio State fan, so obviously I'm not in that. I'm very, very far from Michigan fans, but I do know some people who like Michigan, and I've heard that. So it's interesting what's going on with Michigan. I feel like I don't know if it's all on Bryce Underwood. I think he still has to develop a little bit as a passer, just kind of see the defense a little better. But yeah, that USC game was really a testament. USC just went out there and just bullied Michigan, and we don't usually see that against Washington. I really don't know. This one could go either way. I'm going to take Michigan at home just because I think it's in the big house. I think they kind of get going here a little bit on offense. But Washington has that trio, their QB, running back, receiver. A lot of people think they should be ranked, and I honestly wouldn't hate that if they were. I considered ranking them as well. They're really good. Their only losses to Ohio State, 24-6. Not even a terrible loss. That's Ohio State's, besides Texas, that's Ohio State's closest game they've played this year. Washington just blew out Rutgers. Their QB had 500 total yards or something crazy. Demond Williams, 402 passing yards, 136 rushing yards. Jonah Coleman's amazing on the ground as well. I mean, this Washington offense is really good, but I'm going to trust Michigan at home to get it done, at least slow them down enough to get this win. But honestly, if you told me Washington won, I wouldn't be shocked. I just trust Michigan. I think they know they need to win. And if they do get past this game, I think there's a good chance they go into that Ohio State game at 9-2, playing for a playoff spot. But they're going to have to win this game first. Let's move on, though. Number 23 is going to be Illinois. I was at this game here against Ohio State. Illinois was kind of cruising. After that Indiana loss, the offense kind of got going there against USC and Purdue. Luke Altmaier was really letting it loose, letting it fly. Against Ohio State, he couldn't really do that. They scored a touchdown late to get to 16, but it was really, garbage time. They had about 10 points the whole game. They turned it over, I think, 3 times. Illinois looked sloppy, but that's kind of what you're getting when you play Ohio State. The AP poll drops them out. I'm not going to drop them out. I'm only going to drop them 4. I mean, losing to Ohio State, it's not the end of the world. Ohio State looks like an absolute, just unstoppable force, immovable object, whichever way you want to say it, maybe even both. Ohio State looks like the best team in the country, and I'm not going to fault Illinois for losing that bad to them. 18 points, not terrible. I know Ohio State did cover, but Illinois gets 2 losses, but they have the win over USC, which looks pretty good, and I thought about ranking them ahead of USC, but I just can't right now. They're on the bye, so they're going to have some time to prepare, but that game on the road against Washington, if Illinois can win that game, I think there's a good chance they go 10-2 and maybe could be considered for a playoff spot when your only losses are to Indiana and Ohio State. That's not bad. You have a win over USC as well. But that is going to be a big game. We'll see how they look coming out of the bye that next week. BYU, I'm going to have ranked. I'm not huge on BYU, but they continue to win. They're at 6-0. They're the only team besides Texas Tech to be undefeated in the Big 12. So I'm going to rank them for right now. I haven't ranked them all year. 8 people, they're all the way up at 15. I don't get that. You look at their resume, they don't really have a lot of good wins. Close win against Colorado, very close win against Arizona. They just won in overtime. I'm not too big on BYU. I think Utah will go in there and beat them and hand them their first loss of the season. I just don't like BYU. Maybe I'm just a hater. Maybe BYU can win. Their fans are really strong. That home field environment over there in Provo is really good. But I think Devin Dampier walks in. And I think Utah, after that Texas Tech game, I think they figured some things out. They're looking a lot better. They just blew out Arizona State. It's hard for me not to pick the Utes in this spot. I don't know. I'm just not huge on BYU, and I think this 3-game stretch is kind of going to expose them. I could realistically see them losing all 3 of these games. I think they'll lose this week. I think they'll lose to Texas Tech. Maybe they can beat Iowa State, but on the road, I'm not sure. So I'm not too confident in BYU the rest of the way, but I am going to rank them here just because they're 6-0, give them the benefit of the doubt. South Florida is going to be back into the rankings. We haven't seen them. We saw them after the Florida win. Actually, I think we saw them after the Boise win. And they climbed up very high after the Florida win. Then they dropped out after Miami, but they've won 3 in a row. And look at the point totals they're putting up. 63, 54, 63. This North Texas game, by the way, I believe North Texas was favored. If not, South Florida was favored by very little, but I think North Texas was favored. South Florida goes out, drops 63 points, wins by 27 points. I mean, this offense is just ridiculous right now. I think South Florida has to be the Group of 5 rep right now. But that game at Memphis is going to be huge. Memphis is undefeated. I thought about ranking them, but they're just on the outside of my rankings as of right now. But that game, whoever wins that game is likely going to be the 12 seed in the playoffs. I mean, the American is very good this year. I'd still lean South Florida just because of the early teams they played, the non-conference. The fact they won 2 of those 3 is really strong. But with all that being said, I'm going to take South Florida to beat FAU. I'm not too worried here. I got them 45-21. Number 20 is going to be USC. I really liked what I saw from USC. Coming off the Illinois loss, it was a tough game, but it was on the road. They lose by 2 points. They lose on a last-second field goal as well. That one could very well go either way. There's a real world where USC's 6-0 right now going into this Notre Dame game. I mean, we said it for a while. USC has a very tough schedule. Look at this 4-game stretch here. Illinois, Michigan, Notre Dame, and Nebraska, 3 of those games being on the road. But the way they just played against Michigan, it actually makes me pretty confident in their abilities the rest of the way. I think they can beat Nebraska. Oregon is going to be tough, and Notre Dame is going to be tough. If they can win one of those games, though, if they can find a way to do it, I think they could against Notre Dame. If they go 10-2 with this schedule, I think USC probably gets in, but they are going to have to beat one of Notre Dame and Oregon, and that's assuming they beat Nebraska, they beat UCLA, they beat all these other teams. So USC does have a bit of a tough schedule, but I love the way Jin Maiava looked against Michigan. I love the way the run game looked against Michigan. It's very reminiscent of Lincoln Riley's old teams at OU. But against Notre Dame, I'm a little worried. Notre Dame, it's on the road too. Notre Dame has a very good running game as well with Jeremiah Love, maybe the best backfield in the country. CJ Carr's looking better and better by the day, and I think Notre Dame has a very good chance to backdoor their way into the playoffs there at 10-2. I think there's a really good chance Notre Dame wins out. But man, the way USC handed it to Michigan, a team that's built their program on physicality, and USC just ran it down their throats with their third string running back, by the way. I think if USC maybe had their first guy there, the first starting running back against Notre Dame, I actually would consider picking USC. I've actually seen some people picking USC in this game. I'm going to go Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame wins 34-27, but I do have USC covering. I think the spread's like 8.5. That's very high. I think I think it's really safe to say USC can cover this one. Maybe just because it's in South Bend, which is a very big advantage, but it's a rivalry game. I think there's a really good chance USC covers here. I'd feel pretty confident in that. But I do think, coming off that big win against Michigan, maybe they're riding the high a little too much. This isn't necessarily a must-win game for USC, but it definitely is for Notre Dame. So I think Notre Dame, with that being said, is going to find a way to win, but I could see USC sticking around and making this one very interesting. I mean, they played really bad last year and were in it, so if they limit the turnovers, because they had so many last year, if they limit that, I think USC could give them some problems. Number 19 is going to be Texas. They get the big win. Must-win game against Oklahoma and Red River. They get it done. Mateer looked a little rough. I don't know how much the hand was playing a factor. I'm assuming it was at least somewhat. He threw 3 picks, which is very uncharacteristic for Oklahoma. But the Texas defense, I was worried. I was calling them one of the best defenses in the country. And then they gave up 29 points to a struggling Florida offense. But they come back. They give up 6 points to Oklahoma, get 3 interceptions. And the Texas defense, once again, makes me feel pretty confident in their chances. I think these next 3 games, they should be able to win pretty easily here. I'm going to take them to win. And I think Arch played his best game of the season here against Oklahoma. So if he continues to develop, continues to get better, I think there's a very realistic chance they're 7-2 heading into that Georgia game. And that Georgia game and A&M game are going to be, their seasons. Because if they lose one more game, they're not going to be making the playoffs. But we'll see with Texas. We'll see what they can do. I have them at 19, though. They're going to, if they keep winning, they're going to continue to move up. Number 18 is going to be Utah. They beat Arizona State 42-10. It was an absolutely dominating performance. And Utah looks really good, man. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Devin Dampier. I know they got blown out by Texas Tech, but Texas Tech looks like a different team right now. And Utah, 5-1. I think they're, in my opinion, the second best team in the Big 12 right now. And I think there's a good chance they get that rematch against Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship. And against BYU, I've kind of already said this. I think Utah goes in there, gets a win. I do have BYU covering, actually. Utah's favored by 3.5, and I think that's come down since I looked yesterday. But even with that, I just think BYU is a tough place to play. They are a good team. They're 6-0. I mean, it's hard to do, no matter who you're playing. But I do think Utah has more pieces. I trust their coach a little bit more. I think they will get a win. But Utah, man, 42-10 against Arizona State. I had Arizona State covering that spread, I think. So Utah looking really solid. I got them at 18. 17 is going to be Virginia, coming off the bye after that big win against Louisville. They look ahead to Washington State, a team who kept it close with Ole Miss on the road. Ole Miss was at home in that game. They only won by 3. We'll get to that game shortly, but I think Virginia will handle Washington State. I honestly don't think Washington State's very good. Washington blew them out. Ole Miss probably should have blown them out, but they didn't. Maybe Washington State's getting a little too much buzz because of that. I think Virginia, coming off the bye, is 100% focused, ready to go, and I think they will get this win. I'm not too worried about that really at all. I think Virginia, there's a good chance they finish the season 11-1 if they keep this up. That Louisville game was definitely a game they could have lost, and they found a way to win. Number 16 is going to be Vandy. They're coming off the bye. And they move up 4 just kind of by virtue of teams ahead of them losing. But they got a big game this week against LSU, a team who is kind of struggling. Garrett Nussmeier doesn't really look like himself. They're struggling on the ground a little bit. Vanderbilt, now the LSU defense is a problem. They are very good. But Vanderbilt plays this kind of RPO-style offense that I think is going to help them in this game. I actually trust Diego Pavia to go out there against this defense at home, by the way. I think Vanderbilt goes out and wins this game. I know that might be crazy, but Vanderbilt is also favored by 2.5. That was shocking. I thought for a fact LSU would be favored by 2.5, 1.5. But no, Vanderbilt is favored. That's crazy to me. I don't know, man. I like Vanderbilt to get this win at home. I'm going to trust Diego Pavia. Maybe I'm buying into the hype. I don't know. They kind of... I know they lost by 16 to Bama, but that game was a lot closer than that. I think Vanderbilt can get this win against LSU. Like I said, I just think Garrett Nussmeier and that LSU offense is struggling too much for me to pick them in this spot. And I think LSU might be a little overrated as well. So I'm going to take Vanderbilt. But this schedule coming up for them is absolutely brutal. So this is a kind of a big game for them. I think they probably need to win this. They are favored. Number 15 is going to be Missouri, moving down 2. Very close loss to Alabama, only losing by 3. And they had a chance to win it there, or at least tied at the end. They couldn't ultimately do it, but Ty Simpson really tore up this defense. Missouri couldn't really get much going on the ground. Ahmad Hardy, who was one of the best, he still is one of the best running backs in the country, but Alabama really shut him down. 12 carries for 52 yards. I know that's for a carry, which is solid, but you know what he was doing to start the season, it wasn't really close to what he did in this game. Against Auburn on the road, it is a kind of a tough spot. Auburn's been getting, kind of screwed a little bit with the refs in their games this year. I mean, they got sacked so many times against Oklahoma. They had a close loss, I think, against A&M. Very close loss against Georgia. They were up 10-0. I mean, Auburn's been playing these teams very close. I could really see Auburn finally, getting some luck on their side and winning this one. And maybe Missouri is just, maybe Missouri just collapses. I could see that, especially with it being in Jordan-Hare. I could definitely see that. I'm going to take Missouri. I think they'll bounce back, but again, wouldn't be shocked. They're only favored by 1.5, so that is kind of worrisome. And Auburn's not a bad team whatsoever. They got a lot of playmakers over there. They got Jackson Arnold. They could definitely win. I could see it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of convincing myself to take Auburn. But I'm going to stick with my guy, my pick. I'm going to take Missouri and Bo Pribula. I think maybe he can just give Auburn a little bit too many problems to deal with, especially him running the ball. I think that might be just enough for Missouri to get a win here. And they did play Alabama very close, who is a really good team. So I think Missouri will go in there, but I could see Auburn winning this game. That's kind of a scary game if I'm a Missouri fan. Georgia Tech continues to roll. They're 6-0. They're going to move up 3 spots. They looked a lot better against Virginia Tech than they did against Wake Forest, so that made me feel a little bit better. So I'll move them up 3. I'm going to continue to move them up if they keep winning. But this game at Duke kind of scares me. Manny Diaz is pretty good. He was the DC at Penn State for a little. I think Haynes King will be able to do enough, but the spread is very small in this game. I think Georgia Tech will win. I have winning by 1 point right now. If I'm not mistaken, I think Duke's favored in this one, 1.5. By 1.5, it's supposed to be a very high-scoring game. I think it will be. But you look at the way Illinois beat up Duke earlier in the season. I think Georgia Tech will be able to come out of here with the win just on the back of Haynes King. I mean, that dude is just ridiculous. He's really this whole team. I mean, it's a solid team without him, but if they didn't have Haynes King, this team would be nowhere near 6-0 right now. He's just ridiculous. I think he's just enough to get over this Duke team. This is probably their hardest game besides Georgia left. So if there's any game for them to lose, it's probably this one. But I do think they'll win. I'm going to pick Georgia Tech to win, even with Duke being favored. Notre Dame moving up 2. They continue to roll. The defense is looking a lot better. It was kind of problematic there. Gave up 41 to A&M, 27 to Miami, 30 to Purdue. I was getting a little worried, but the past 3 games, they've given up 13, 7, and 7. CJ Carr is really getting going, really coming into his own. Obviously, the running game is ridiculous there, which Jeremiah Love. Like I said when I was talking about USC is, I'm very high on them right now. I've seen people picking USC in this game, things I've listened to, things I've heard. I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I just think it's a must-win game for them at home. I think they'll find a way to get it done. I like CJ Carr, but if USC can force some turnovers, I think it's really going to come down to the turnover battle because USC turned it over so much the previous year against Notre Dame. If they can limit that, then USC can probably win this game. But I think Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame has a better chance, I guess, to limit their turnovers. I mean, CJ Carr has been playing amazing the past few weeks, and I think USC is going to have a hard time to. Maybe Notre Dame tries to keep their offense off the field. I could see that with Jeremiah Love just really getting him going, force feeding him the ball even. I do think Notre Dame gets this win. It's a must-win game for them. It's not for USC, so that's kind of what I'm going for here. Also, with it being in South Bend, it is tough. But it is a rivalry game. Could go either way for sure. Number 12 is going to be Oklahoma, moving down 6. They lose to Texas. I am a little concerned here. Mateer did not look right. Obviously, 3 picks. He was the Heisman favorite for me. And then he gets injured, and then he comes back, throws 3 picks. How much of that was the hand injury? It's got to be some. I've seen some people saying it's not because, it was kind of just a decision-making thing from him where he was just not seeing the defenders right, not seeing the field right. Like none of them were like slow coming out the hand that I noticed. None of them were like wobblers. It was kind of just throwing it to the defense, but I'm assuming some of it had to do with the hand. Maybe he normally throws it faster and he could have gotten out quicker there. I'm not sure. Obviously, there's no way for me to know. But I am worried. This Oklahoma defense has been amazing this season. But they gave up 23 to Texas. Not like a crazy amount. But a Texas team that was struggling so much in offense. Maybe that's a little concerning. I don't know if OU's defense is... maybe it still is the second best defense in the country behind Ohio State. You could argue that. I think Brent Venables will do enough on defense to contain Lenore Sellers and get this win, but it does worry me a little bit with Mateer's health. Maybe he was rushed back a little too soon, and now you're worried, okay, what if he re-aggravates it? What if, the rest of the season, now that he's playing on it, he's not going to be able to recover fully, and he's going to struggle the rest of the season? Because you look at the schedule, it is just brutal after this game. Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, LSU, those are all ranked teams. Those are all teams I think, I'm not sure where I had Missouri, but I might have had Missouri at 15. That's all top 15 teams for me. So I'm very worried about Oklahoma's ceiling. Honestly, I think Texas has a better chance to get in the playoffs right now than Oklahoma, even with them having one more loss, which is crazy. But just look at the schedule, man. I mean, if Mateer is not going to get back to how he was playing, in the Michigan game, really before Auburn, before he got injured. If he doesn't get back to that, I'm worried about Oklahoma because they need him to be pretty much everything for them because they can't run the ball, which is a very big problem. But I think they'll do enough, like I said, on defense to get this win. Number 11 is going to be Tennessee. They continue to play close games. They continue to squeak by, but they're scoring a lot of points. They're a very fun team to watch. Joey Aguilar's just slinging the ball around. It is pretty crazy how many points this Tennessee offense is putting up a game. But don't get it twisted. I mean, Tennessee is going to want to run the ball here against Alabama. They're going to want to slow it down at least a little bit. Not fully, obviously. They're going to want to take some shots. It's Tennessee. We know this. This game's going to be very high scoring. I'd take the over. I think it's like 60.5. I don't think that's high enough. I think it's going to go way over that. But with that being said, who do I trust more here, Joey Aguilar or Ty Simpson? Well, I think you could argue these are maybe the 2 best quarterbacks in the SEC. Maybe Marcel Reed has something to say about that. But you could definitely argue that. And with the way these 2 offenses are playing, I think you could argue these are the 2 best offenses in the SEC as well. Maybe Texas A&M, like I said. But I mean, this is going to be a crazy game. The fact that it is in Tuscaloosa, though, makes me a little bit worried. I think Alabama, with the way they're playing right now, it's hard for me not to pick them. I'm going to take Ty Simpson to make that extra play. Alabama did a very good job stopping Missouri's run game. Tennessee's run game hasn't been as good as Missouri's, and Alabama's run defense was struggling this season, and they stepped up against Missouri. I think they're going to step up against Tennessee, maybe force them to be a little bit more one-dimensional than Josh Heupel would want. And I think that favors them just so they don't have to worry about stopping the run and the pass. Alabama and Jam Miller, I also worry about their run game. I think they need to get that going a little bit more because Alabama is kind of one-dimensional as well. But I think Ty Simpson right now has got to be the Heisman favorite, and I'm going to take him to get this win. I mean, both these QBs are going to be throwing the ball in this one. It's going to be a shootout, and I'm here for it, man. But I got Alabama winning 37-30. They're favored by 8.5, by the way. They're thinking Alabama. Oh, never mind. It's come down to 7.5. Yesterday it was 8.5, though. A lot of people are thinking Alabama's going to just blow them out. I have Tennessee covering, but it is in Tuscaloosa, so I'm going to take Alabama. I think they are overall just a little bit better. Number 10 is going to be LSU. There's kind of a chain here that I noticed. Ole Miss. So first of all, LSU beats Clemson, and then Ole Miss beats LSU. So LSU got propped up by the Clemson win, and then Ole Miss got propped up because they beat LSU. But in reality, are any of these teams good? I think that's a question. I think that's a very fair question to ask because Clemson was ranked, 4 in the preseason? LSU was ranked 9, I believe. LSU wins, and all of a sudden, LSU's top 3 team, top 2 team even. Their defense is ridiculous, and it still is a very good defense. But then Clemson falls off, and LSU just kind of stays there until they play Ole Miss. Then Ole Miss gets all of a sudden a top 3, whatever LSU was ranked at the time, top 3 win, we'll just say. Now Ole Miss all of a sudden, top 5 team, LSU gets to fall down. But in reality, LSU got propped up by the Clemson win. Clemson's not great. Ole Miss got propped up by the LSU win. You see the chain I'm going here? Maybe just all 3 of these teams aren't great. I don't know. LSU's offense is really concerning. Garrett Nussmeier just does not look the same as what he was last year. I think the defense could maybe get them this win over Vanderbilt, but like I said, I think Vanderbilt's RPO-style offense is enough for them to get this win. I have them winning 24-21. I think Diego Pavia does enough to get this win. I think he finds the way, and I'm not sure how good I feel about LSU. That offense it's really worrisome. They win 20-10 against South Carolina. Some of these games, they just don't look good. I mean, Louisiana Tech 23-7, Florida 20-10 also. I don't know, man. They've scored over 20 points 3 times, and 2 of those times it was exactly 20. The most points they've scored this season is 23 to Louisiana Tech, besides Southeast Louisiana, obviously, but that one doesn't count. So, I'm going to take Vanderbilt. Could LSU's defense travel and get this one done? For sure. They could definitely. Wouldn't put it past them. But, man, they got A&M coming up. They got Bama coming up. Those are 2 really big games, and I'm kind of worried that LSU might lose both of them. I'm really not sure how good LSU is as of right now. Number 9 is going to be Georgia. They go into Auburn, get a win. Honestly, I don't really care how ugly it was. I thought Auburn would keep this very close. I think the spread was 3.5. I think it had Georgia winning by 4. So Georgia goes down 10-0. Obviously, they had the controversial call at the goal line where Jackson Arnold, I believe it was Jackson Arnold, dives over the pile and the ball gets tipped out. Did he break the plane before the fumble happened, or and then there was Georgia recovered it, did the whistle blow because Georgia recovered it and returned it for a touchdown. They ultimately gave Georgia the fumble, but at the 1-yard line, and then that was that. Georgia ends up winning the game 20-10. Can Georgia for once just not go down early in the game? I mean, is that an option? They went down early against Tennessee. They went down early against Bama. They went down early against Auburn. I don't know what's going on with Georgia, but if they could just play decent in the first quarter, because they're playing bad in the first quarter, and against Ole Miss, that kind of worries me. I mean, the question is going to be how much of a cushion can Ole Miss get in the first quarter, because that's seems like what it's coming down to. And for Tennessee, it was almost enough. For Auburn, it wasn't enough. For Bama, it was enough. The cushion they got, but I mean, Georgia's just shown me that they can come back in a multitude of different ways. They had a chance against Alabama. They came back against Auburn in a low-scoring game. They came back against Tennessee in a high-scoring game, both those games being on the road as well. This Ole Miss game is at home. Ole Miss beat Georgia last year. really tanked their playoff seeding. Actually, I guess not, because Georgia ended up as the 2 seed. But that was a tough loss for Georgia to lose to Ole Miss how they did. But that game was weird. It was raining. It was gross. I think Georgia is going to have complete focus for this game. I think Kirby Smart will have enough here. Just because it's a revenge game, they lost to them last year. I don't think they're going to want to lose to them again, especially with it being in Athens. I got to go with Georgia here. Game day is going to be there here. I got 30-24. I think Georgia's favored by 7. So it is, Georgia's favored by 7.5 now. So I do have Ole Miss covering. I think they'll be able to do enough to keep this one interesting, this one close. But I do have Georgia winning. I think Georgia, ultimately, I think what it comes down to, I think they start a little bit better than how they started the past few weeks, and I think that's going to be enough for them to get the win. Because when they have a lead, I trust them to keep it. Even if they go down in the first quarter like 7-3 or 10-3 or something, I think they're going to be fine. If they're only down 1 score out of the first quarter, I think they will be able to come back. We've seen them come back from bigger deficits at the end of the first quarter and even at the end of the half before this season. So I'm going to trust Georgia to get it done. I mean, you just can't put them away, and that's just a great coaching. Obviously, you'd like them to start better. That's obviously, if I'm Kirby Smart, which obviously I'm not, but I'd try to coach them to do that, obviously. And I'm kind of betting on the fact that they will here against Ole Miss. I think they do win, and I think Ole Miss may be a little over it as well. Big game here. Oregon drops 5 spots down to number 8. They host the Indiana Hoosiers. And what does Indiana do? Well, they come in there and not only beat them, but Indiana dominated this game. And that's not a crazy thing to say. Like, Indiana came into Oregon. Oregon had the drive there at the end. It was a 10-point game. It was not looking great. Dante Moore, I guess he has a chance if he scores a touchdown to get the onside. They could tie the game, send it to OT. I mean, it was first play, second play. He throws a pick. Dante Moore just tanked his Heisman, campaign right there, because he was the favorite for me after Mateer was injured. Now it's got to be Ty Simpson, but that's obviously not what Dante Moore's thinking about. He's mad. He lost this game. He threw for 800. Not 800. He threw for 186 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Only a 33 QBR. It wasn't great. Indiana won the game in the trenches. They won I think they won the ground game as well, yeah. They had more rushing yards. They looked better on the lines of scrimmage, and Indiana just controlled this game, which is insane to say. Elijah Surratt had a big day, and Indiana, man. Going into Autzen, this is a stadium that Ohio State lost in last year, by the way. The team that ran through the playoffs. Ohio State couldn't beat them in Autzen. Indiana went in there and won this game. I don't think it's crazy to say that Indiana, as of right now, is a legitimate national champion contender. I don't think that's crazy to say. Now, Oregon, will this loss benefit them? Maybe. We kind of saw Ohio State lose at a similar time in the season last year, and it benefited them greatly. I think it will ultimately. I think Dan Lanning will get these guys, back locked in. I think there's a great chance they finish this season at 11-1. I mean, you look at the rest of the schedule. Where's the loss? Maybe Washington, just because it's a rivalry game and it's on the road. That could be tough. But and the USC game maybe. But I think there's no way they lose both those games. So I think the floor is 10-2. I think they realistically probably go 11-1, and with that, they'll get into the playoffs. And I think Oregon still has potential to get back to one of those top-tier teams in the country. But, man, the way that Indiana they just dominated them in the trenches, too. I mean, that's ridiculous. But this week against Rutgers, I think Oregon has a big statement game. They come back locked in, ready to go. I think Oregon will be fine. I'm not going to overreact too much. I am going to maybe not overreact. I think I'm going to properly react on Indiana. We'll talk about them. Texas Tech up 2. They continue to win. They continue to look like by far and away the best team in the Big 12. This week, I believe it's this week, unless they're on bye, but they play Arizona State on the road, favored by 9.5. I'm going to take Texas Tech to win. I'm going to take Texas Tech to cover. I don't think Arizona State's all that great. Utah just beat them by 32. I know they were without Sam Levitt, I believe, and I'm not sure if he'll play in this game. Ultimately, if he does play, maybe Arizona State's able to cover, but even if he does play, I think Texas Tech will win this game. Texas Tech, I've been saying this, is not just a good team for the Big 12. They are a good team. Like, to put it simply, they are a good team. They are a legitimate playoff team, and they could go on a run in the playoffs. I mean, they built this team through the transfer portal, through NIL, similar to how a lot of these top-tier teams done it. Like, they have the talent to go toe-to-toe with a team like Oregon, with a team like Georgia. So I think Texas Tech is in a very good spot right now. I think there's a great chance they finish 12-0. I think they could finish 13-0. I think there's a good chance Texas Tech going into the playoffs is undefeated. That's how much I like this team. Now, they did have some injuries. Baron Morton's a little banged up. Austin Simmons. I'm thinking of not Austin Simmons. I'm thinking the Ole Miss guy. What's the backup's name? Will Hammond. He did have to come in against Kansas, but I'm not too worried there. We saw Will Hammond come in against Utah and just honestly look better than Baron Morton. I am a little worried about the injuries they faced on the D-line. That D-line was one of the best in the country, and they did get a little banged up there, so that's something to watch. But I still think Texas Tech will win this game against ASU this week. Number 6 is going to be Ole Miss. I'm going to have to drop one, man. With the way they looked against Washington State, this is not a good Washington State team. We're just going to put that plainly. This is a bad Washington State team. This is a team that got absolutely blown out by Washington by like 40 points, I want to say. This is a Washington State team that, lost by 49 to North Texas. Won by 3 points against Idaho. Like, this is not a good Washington State team. And Ole Miss at home barely wins, squeaks it out, 24-21. I think they were losing in the second half. Like, it was not a good showing from Ole Miss. Maybe they were just looking ahead to Georgia. I guess that's what it had to be. Now Trinidad Chambliss still had 3 touchdowns. He threw for 2, ran for 1. But yeah, I mean, it was not a good showing from Ole Miss. I'm really worried if we're just overrating Ole Miss and LSU. I kind of talked about that when I touched on LSU. Like, how much does that LSU win really mean if LSU's not great? Look at their schedule. They have a 1-score win over Kentucky, a 1-score win over Arkansas, a team that Notre Dame beat by 40, a 1-score win over Washington State. Like, I don't know, man. And 2 of those games were at home. I don't feel great about picking them to beat Georgia on the road with what I've seen. I think they can cover just because I like their talent they have there. But honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Georgia covered as well at home. I think, all the signs are pointing for Georgia in this game. I honestly might, switch this prediction around a little. I could see Georgia covering this 7.5 spread. I'm just not huge on Ole Miss. Now, if they win this game, if they go into Georgia, I'll have to take it all back, and Ole Miss is a legitimate contender here in the SEC. But as of right now, I'm still a little skeptical about the Rebels. We'll see what Lane Kiffin brings to Athens this Saturday. But we're obviously a little skeptical here. Bama's going to move up too. They're going to jump Ole Miss. They go into Missouri in a game that a lot of people thought Missouri could win just because of the matchup. They were so good running the ball. Alabama's run defense wasn't great. Alabama couldn't get much going on the ground as well. It was on the road in Columbia, Missouri, in between, a Georgia game, a Vanderbilt game, a Tennessee game. They go out, handle business, win by 3 points. And yeah, now they got Tennessee coming to town. I think if this was in Neyland, I'd feel a lot better about picking Tennessee. The fact that it's in Bryant-Denny, I'm going to have to take Alabama. I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game, shootout game. One of the best games of the year, in my opinion. I think that's how excited I am for this game. I think Ty Simpson is probably the Heisman favorite right now. He's playing like it. I mean, the way he's just... And he's so calm. He doesn't really force it ever. Like, he just finds the open guy, whether it's man, zone. He can really just do it all. If Bama can develop a run game with Jam Miller, which they kind of did a little bit, I believe, against Vanderbilt, if they can really get that figured out and get that going, Bama's going to be a tough team, man. I mean, Kalen DeBoer's got a guy there with Ty Simpson, and obviously Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams. That receiver core is one of the best units in the country, point blank. And Ty Simpson, one of the best players in the country, the best quarterback in the country right now, at least in my opinion. Yeah, so I really like Alabama. I really like the way they're playing. They continue to roll. I think they will continue to roll against Tennessee and move to 6-1, undefeated in SEC play, by the way. Number 4 is going to be A&M. Stand put. They get a 34-17 win over Florida. A&M's probably the most complete team in the SEC right now. If Alabama can develop a run game, I may say Alabama is more complete. But as of right now, I got to go A&M. They got a quarterback who can throw the ball in Marcel Reed. He can run the ball, use his legs to his advantage. Le'Veon Moss there in the backfield, an absolute game breaker. He's ridiculous. Great running back. And then the weapons they got on the outside. I mean, it's just a really good team. Not to mention this defense is playing lights out right now. They gave up, 10 to Auburn, 9 to Mississippi State, 17 to Florida. We've seen Texas A&M win in a multitude of different ways this season. So I really like that. And, they have another running back they use a lot. Reuben Owens. He has almost the same amount of yards as Le'Veon Moss. He's only 60 behind. They have a two-headed monster in the backfield, and the receivers. Not to mention, Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion both are playing amazing football right now. This Texas A&M team is very solid against Arkansas. I do think they cover. They're favored by 7.5. Could be kind of a high-scoring game, but I think Texas A&M will be able to force some turnovers and be able to cover the spread. I do think they go into Arkansas and win and move to 7-0. Coming up on a game at LSU. That is going to be tough. Playing, there at LSU is never easy, especially with that LSU defense. I could see Texas A&M losing that, but look at the schedule, man. I think Texas A&M's floor is 10-2, and I think they've done enough so far. If they finish 10-2, they'll probably get in. But I think there's a good chance they win one of the LSU-Texas game. I'm assuming they beat Missouri, but maybe I shouldn't. Missouri's a really good team. But I do think they'll beat Missouri. If they can win one of the LSU and Texas games, finish 11-1, that's going to be a great season for the Aggies. Number 3 is going to be Indiana. Speaking of great seasons, man, there's a real chance Indiana finishes 12-0 this season, which is crazy. I never thought I'd say those words, but, who's the loss to? Maybe Penn State, but I can't even say that. Not this Penn State team, not the team I saw last week against Northwestern. Penn State just lost back-to-back weeks to UCLA and Northwestern, man. They just fired their coach. Drew Aller's out for the season. Penn State's not beating Indiana with a backup quarterback. Indiana is legitimately a national champion contender, which is insane. Kurt Cignetti, in 2 seasons, has already done this. They're moving up 5 spots. You could argue they should be 2. Now, I'm going to keep Miami at 2, just because of that resume. But, man, Indiana, I think there's a good chance they go to Indianapolis, by the way. It's going to be essentially a home game for the Big Ten Championship at 12-0. I think there's a good chance Ohio State, Indiana play in Indianapolis both at 12-0, which is going to be insane. And if Indiana wins that game, they are going to be the number 1 seed in the college football playoffs. Think about that for a second. Let that sink in. They're going to have an essentially a home game for the Big Ten Championship as an undefeated, and if they win that game, they will be the 1 seed in the playoffs. That is ridiculous to think about. But Indiana going into Oregon, 30-20 win, and the way they looked in the trenches, I can't stress this enough. Indiana is, if any team other than Indiana, if any of these big brand teams went into Oregon and did this, if Ohio State did this, if Bama, Georgia, Tennessee, Michigan, any of these huge brands in the sport, if any of these teams did that, we'd say at minimum the number 2 team, number 3 team, probably number 1. The fact that it's Indiana though, a lot of people are kind of pushing this off to the side. I'm not going to. Like I said, you could argue they should be 2. I don't think that's crazy. I think Indiana legitimately. We were saying they're a playoff contender last week. Legitimately a national champion contender as of right now. If you told me a few weeks ago that you would say that, I'd call you crazy, and yet here we are. Especially because going into that Illinois game, I had Illinois winning, and I was really low on Indiana. So the fact that it's changed this quickly, I think they'll blow out Michigan State. I mean, 21, not necessarily a blowout, but I think Indiana maybe has a little bit of a slow start against this team, just a little bit of a hangover over that, coming off that big Oregon win. But honestly, Indiana's favored at 27.5, so I have Michigan State covering, but Michigan State's not great. I don't think they'll go into Bloomington and win this game. Number 2 is going to be Miami, staying put, coming off the bye. A little bit of a weird game here, Friday night against Louisville. I could see Miller Moss and Louisville covering, and I do have them covering. It's 13.5. It's just because it's a Friday game. Weird things happen on Friday night. We saw Virginia beat Florida State on Friday night. Like I said, just weird things happen. But I like Miami's offensive capabilities there, running the ball, throwing the ball. Carson Beck, you could argue, should be the Heisman favorite over Ty Simpson. You could definitely argue that. I'd give it to Ty Simpson, but a lot of people like Carson Beck, myself included. He's playing amazing right now. And this Miami defense, not to mention, Ruben Bain, so many guys on that defense, so many draft picks. Like, this Miami team is very well rounded. I think they're the number 2 team. If you told me to pick Ohio State, Miami, Indiana, no, actually, I'll just say Ohio State, Miami. If you told me Ohio State, Miami, or the field to win it all, I might take Ohio State, Miami. Like, realistically, I think that's fair to say. I'd probably still side with the field, but it's very close. That just goes to show how good Miami is. So I do think Louisville will cover. I think Miller Moss can make some plays happen. But I'm going to take Miami to win this game. I'm not too worried that they're going to lose it all. And then Ohio State is going to stay number 1. I don't see them dropping from number 1 anytime soon. They go into Illinois, an Illinois team that was rolling the past 2 weeks, throwing all over teams. Luke Altmaier looked great. They couldn't do anything against Ohio State. Ohio State forces 3 turnovers, excuse me. Arvell Reese looks like the best linebacker in the country, which is crazy because he has Sonny Styles, who we thought would be better than him, and he is still very good. I mean, this is the best linebacker room in the country. They have the best defensive player in the country in Caleb Downs. They have a D-line that's developing and getting better and better by the week. I really like what I'm seeing from Caden Curry. They have the best player in the country in Jeremiah Smith and the best receiving room in the country. You could argue they have the 2 best receivers in the country. I think that's fair to say. I think Cardinal Tate deserves that. Maybe I'm biased, but I think he deserves that. They have probably the most, statistics say the most efficient quarterback. The quarterback with the highest completion percentage right now, Julian Sain, looks ridiculous. And I'm saying all this, and Ohio State doesn't even look like they're letting it all go. Like last year in the playoffs, they let it all go. They let it all fly, and we saw what happened. We saw they ran through every team. Ohio State doesn't even look like that this year. It looks like they're playing in like second gear. Like, imagine you get to third or fourth gear for Ohio State. If I'm any other team, I am very concerned with Ohio State. Ohio State looks like a very reasonable, they have a very realistic chance to repeat. And next season, they're going to have Julian Sain and Jeremiah Smith come back, not to mention all these other guys. If Ohio State can really get a consistent ground game going, that's the only thing I could say. But Bo Jackson looks legit, and they have 3 running backs that all get a lot of work. Bo Jackson's going to develop as the season goes on. That's the only negative I could say. Just a little bit inconsistent on the ground, but they don't really need it as of right now. So I'm going to take Ohio State to go into Wisconsin and win 34-7. I think Wisconsin is very good. A lot of people think they're going to fire their head coach. I will be going to this game as well. I was at the Illinois game last week. I'm going to this one. So very exciting. Hopefully Ohio State can pull it out. I think they will. But Wisconsin's always kind of a tough place to play. But it's not like it's a night game. But that is going to do it for the Week 8 college football top 25 rankings. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you go down there, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. We do college football, NFL, MLB every single week. We're going to return to NBA and college basketball every single week as well. Very soon, very, very soon. But that is going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like I said. And I will see you guys tomorrow with another NFL weekly prediction video.